Welcome into Locked On Phillies. In today's episode, a big trade to bolster the bullpen for your Philadelphia Phillies and a couple fringe pieces on the move back in turn. We'll break it down on today's Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is indeed Locked On Phillies. Welcome back. I am your host, Connor Thomas. Real quick, let me get through this. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. I'm your host of Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Now, I know exactly what all of you out there are saying. Connor, where in the world have you been? Why haven't we had episodes? And let me tell you, I wish I was able to get episodes up for you. I just went through a really, really rough bout with COVID. I was not in good shape. Voice was gone, coughing, fever, aches, cold. It hit me hard. And for about the past week, their chair back there with the blanket on it, I've been basically sitting in that chair, watching TV, waiting for myself to get better, drinking as many fluids as I can. I apologize for the lack of episodes. Listen, honestly, I felt terrible. I was out of work over at the station over at 97.5 The Fanatic, where I work my full-time job over there. I wasn't doing really much of anything social media-wise. I was off the grid, MIA, and luckily today got the negative test. I've been feeling better. I'll be back in work at the studio tomorrow morning, and I wanted to jump in and get everything going for episodes for you for Locked On Phillies again. So I appreciate you bearing with me through all of that. Again, I apologize for the lack of episodes. If I could have, I would have, but I was really, really sick. If you're noticing maybe a little bit of different quality of the video today, I actually, Santa called in a big favor with Santa and asked for a nice new camera for my computer, for my Mac. So I wasn't just using the built-in laptop camera from this laptop I got when I was getting ready to go to college back in 2012 would have been my graduating year of high school. So yeah, this is a 2012 MacBook Pro, and the built-in camera, well, it's not as up to date as one from now. It's a 10-year-old camera, so hopefully a little bit better video quality for you if you're watching on the YouTube. So yeah, we're upgrading here, and I'm trying to. Maybe that'll make up for the lack of episodes. No, it won't. It won't. So let's jump into it and let's give you the content that we've been missing. And the good thing is, right as I'm getting better, the Philadelphia Phillies, well, they make a big offseason acquisition. And this is not just a signing. No, this is their first big trade of the offseason. And it is with the Detroit Tigers. Now, a couple days ago, the Philadelphia Phillies, they reach out to the Detroit Tigers, or actually, as Dave Dombrowski put it, the Tigers reach out to him. And the discussion is around all-star left-handed reliever Gregory Soto. And the Phillies, according to Dombrowski, had acquired about Soto during the winter meetings. Nothing really materialized. And then all of a sudden, a couple days ago, well, the Tigers pick up the phone and they call Dave Dombrowski's office and they say, hey, let's get something done. Now, if you're not familiar with Gregory Soto and who he is, well, picture Jose Alvarado. That's basically it, right? And that's not to diminish who Gregory Soto is. Now, he's a multiple-time all-star reliever, so his track record's even better than what you're looking at from Jose Alvarado. But they're both flame-throwing lefties. They both have absolutely nasty stuff. They both have a little bit of questions about control. But, hey, when you can add an arm with that type of talent to a bullpen that was really good last year at points, well, you got to do it. He's a really, really good piece. He had 30 saves for the Detroit Tigers last year in the closer role, so he's a guy that you could absolutely slot in your closer role. And, well, we're just talking hypothetically, right? Because, like I said, the Phillies had a conversation about Gregory Soto, but no, a deal got done. So here's what the deal was for. Before we get into how great Soto is going to be for the Philadelphia Phillies in 2023 and where he slots into the bullpen and all of that, let's talk turkey. Let's talk the numbers. Who went where? How long do you have this guy for? Are there any other pieces coming? And the answer to all of those, well, yes, some people went there. You got him until 2027. we'll start from the beginning. Gregory Soto came to the Philadelphia Phillies along with Cody Clemens. Now, if that name sounds familiar to you, well, yes, he is the son of one Roger Clemens. So Cody Clemens not as illustrious of a major league career as his father to this point, a young utility player. But the real prize is Gregory Soto, again, multiple-time All-Star lefty closer for the Detroit Tigers, who had a really, really good season last year, and surprising that the Philadelphia Phillies were able to get him for what they did. What did they give up? Well, Matt Vierling is heading to Detroit. He will be a member of the Tigers. Nick Maton heading to Detroit, also going to be a new Detroit Tiger. And Donnie Sands, a catcher who had, I think, one plate appearance for the Phillies in 2022, and it was a walk like late in the game of a blowout. Donnie Sands is a young player that wasn't really going to factor in here much. So just basically a throw-in. But Donnie Sands, Nick Maton, and Matt Vierling go to Detroit. Gregory Soto and Cody Clemens. Sorry, I don't know why I'm blanking. I keep wanting to say Roger. Cody Clemens come to Philadelphia. So let's break down how this trade is value-wise. So on one hand, you've got Soto, who's an all-star caliber reliever. Just unbelievable arm talent from the left-hand side. A young pitcher who is under team control up until 2026. So through the 2025 season. So you have, man, Dave Dombrowski loves to lock up these young guys that are under team control. And it's so smart. You can have him as a part of this team for a long time. That's a beautiful thing. And then you have Cody Clemens, who has played third, who's played second, who's played shortstop. He's basically a utility infielder who batted in the 140s last year for Detroit. He's not anything crazy special, but he has a little bit of major league experience. I believe last year was his first year at the major league level. And he's a guy that can play the infield. When you look at what the Phillies gave up, Nick Maton, who was your utility infielder last year, along with Edmundo Sosa, who played more of a prominent role due to some injuries to Didi Gregorius injury, Gene Segura injury, then Didi Gregorius release, and all of this stuff going on. So Nick Maton was more the utility infielder, and Edmundo Sosa was a fringe starter. Cody Clemens is basically going to be what Nick Maton was set to be for this team. Maybe not as good, but he's a guy that you can throw in every once in a while in the bottom of the lineup, play solid defense in the infield when someone needs a day off. That's it. That's fine. So you have your backup infielder. So Maton, Clemens, look at that as kind of a one-for-one. Maton a little bit better, but an even split. Matt Vierling for Gregory Soto. How does that factor in for the Phillies? Well, Vierling didn't really have a clear path to be a major contributor for the 2023 Philadelphia Phillies. I've talked to you about it multiple times. I see Brandon Marsh as the everyday center fielder for this team. I don't think they're going to platoon, which left Vierling as a guy who would fill in on off days, fit in left field or right field if Nick Castellanos or Kyle Schwarber were DHing, and kind of be that fourth outfielder that would fill in, which is nice. But when you can move that guy for an all-star closer, you're not losing all that much and you're gaining a whole bunch. So you hate to see Matt Vierling go. I love Matt Vierling. He was a really good locker room guy. Had the great Car Shield commercials that everybody loved. Matty Car Shields, as I called him. Yeah, it's a shame to see him go. So you hate to see a guy like that. And Maton, for that matter, another good locker room guy. You hate to see members of the Phillies daycare go because you're always going to remember them from this run. But Matt Vierling was a fringe player in the outfield. He was a depth piece. And when you can move a depth piece for a guy who's going to be able to contribute, not every night because closers don't do that, but regularly to this team in a major manner, that's a win. And Matt Vierling's not an all-star caliber player. Never will be. Sorry, he's a good player. He'll have a major league career for a good amount of time. I believe he'll do well in Detroit, but he's not an all-star caliber player, and you're getting one in return. So Soto, greater than Vierling. And then Donnie Sands is just, he's a catching prospect that, I don't know, it's the same thing as Logan O'Hoppe when you moved him. JT Realmuto's here. It's going to be here for a while. You don't really factor in if you're a catching prospect right now in the Phillies minor leagues or fringe major league players. So, yeah, you're fine there. It was a steal for the Philadelphia Phillies. And maybe the Tigers look at it and they say, hey, we'll take a chance on Maton. We'll take a chance on Vierling. There's some young players with major league experience, and we'll bring them into our organization because we're not competing to win right now, and we'll have a chance to develop them, and maybe we'll get a steal somewhere. But the Phillies are competing now, and you're looking at a situation where they got way better in the bullpen. Not just better, way better in the bullpen from this move. So a great trade by Dave Dombrowski. And, man, coming up next, I'm going to tell you where I see Gregory Soto factoring in the bullpen, where he slots in. Maybe it'll be the closer role. Maybe it won't be. It's probably going to be the closer role. And I think he's going to be great there. I'll break down some numbers from his time in Detroit that tell you exactly what that is, and a fun combined stat between him and Jose Alvarado that shows you just how dominant the Phillies are going to be out of the pen this year. That coming up next on Locked On Phillies. First, though, I want to tell you about my friends over at BetOnline. Remember, they're bringing you today's episode, and BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, analysis, all that good stuff. You get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From pro football to college bowl season, national championships going on tonight, folks. Find those lines. Basketball, everything's going on. Hockey, man, check it all out. They've got it all at betonline.net. They're always your fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. And if you love sports podcasts, you can even find those at BetOnline as well. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline is where the game starts. Okay, let's talk about where Gregory Soto fixes in, where he fits in, where he slots in, however you'd like to word it, where he fits best with this Philadelphia Phillies bullpen. And to me, frankly, I know you got other candidates. It's got to be the closer's role. And let me tell you a little bit about why. Let's jump into the statistics from his time in Detroit. Now, Soto made his major league debut back in 2019. It was May 11th of 2019. So he debuted at 24, currently 27 years old. That's young when it comes to a reliever. We talked about Craig Kimbrell being a well-traveled reliever at 34 years of age. Last year, at the deadline, the Phillies traded for 39-year-old David Robertson. So when you look at 27, yeah, he's got a ways to go. And again, under team control through the 2025 season. Won't be a free agent until 2026. So you've got this guy locked down for that core window. It's what we talked about in previous episodes where Dave Dombrowski has this core for the next 3-4 years before you have to start re-signing guys and everything, and they're all locked up through then. So it's absolutely perfect. It fits in the time frame. He's a great fit from the age and numbers perspective, contract length, all of that stuff. He's a two-time All-Star. So again, debuted in 2019. Didn't do all that much then. Only 23 innings in 2020 because of the shortened season. But then in 2021 and 2022, he cleared 60 innings both times. He was an American League All-Star in both of those campaigns. So this past year and the year before. Here's some of the numbers. The ERA, 3.39 in 2021, 3.28 in 2022. Both of those numbers you will absolutely take. Win-loss. Now, significantly more losses than wins for the Detroit Tigers last year. He was 2-11 last year. Here's why that doesn't matter. Because he's a closer. Record doesn't matter, and you're already in a tough spot playing for an organization like the Tigers. You know when closers are real good? When you're throwing them in against teams that are not as good as you, and you have a 2 or a 3-run lead. Now, ideally, closers can close the door, and regardless of what the situation is, but you get put in tougher spots when you close for worse teams. The Tigers were not a good team last year. He was asked to do a lot for them out of the pen. But regardless, 63 2/3 innings in 2021, 60 1/3 innings in 2022. The number of strikeouts, 76 strikeouts in 2021, 60 in 2022. So you're looking at about even to maybe a little bit more than a strikeout per inning. So Ks per 9 hanging right around that 9 mark, 10.7 in 2021, 9 even in 2022 as far as Ks per 9. This guy has strikeout stuff. And you know why? Well, he throws hard. He's Jose Alvarado. I told you about this. He's just like what Jose Alvarado is for the Philadelphia Phillies. And a fun stat, shout out to Cespedes Family Barbecue on Twitter who pulled this one up for us. And a great follow on there. That just one of the all-time great Twitter baseball information accounts. But they tweeted this out after the trade got done. Jose Alvarado and Gregory Soto combined to account for 81% of the 100-plus mile-an-hour pitches thrown by all left-handed pitchers in the 2022 MLB regular season. So 81 of every 100 pitches that were thrown 100 miles an hour or harder came from these two guys. And now the Philadelphia Phillies have both of them coming out of the pen. It's amazing. It's absolutely perfect. Before this, your lefty relievers were Jose Alvarado, and then Matt Strahm, and then who? I don't know, maybe Bailey Falter is your next best guy, depending on what you do with that final spot in the starting rotation. It's okay, but like Matt Strahm's a nice piece from the Red Sox, who's a guy that has a little bit of experience at the major league level. This is a guy that, while he's still young, is a back-to-back all-star who throws absolute gas. Soto's amazing. His strikeout numbers are great. Now, what's not great is the walk numbers. And let me go back to his baseball reference page here. Walks per 9, right around 5 per his career, 5.3 per his career. Last year, total number of walks he issued, 34 in 60 and a third innings, 40 in 63 and two-thirds innings back in 2021. He's going to walk guys. It's basically Jose Alvarado. And I don't agree with a lot of what Joe Girardi said when he was here and a lot of his managerial decisions. But here's one thing I do agree with. He talked about why he goes to Jose Alvarado so much, or why he used to when he was the manager of this team, this being Joe Girardi. And his argument was he might walk a guy, he might hit a guy, he might give up a single, but he's not going to give up home runs. People aren't going to leave the yard off him because his stuff is too nasty and he throws too hard. Now, I know hard in, hard out, but like he throws hard to the point of not catching up and making solid contact. So, yeah, maybe there are going to be some walks. More often than not, he's going to get guys out. It's evident by his ERA. It's evident by his track record of being a multiple-time All-Star. It's evident by the number of saves. And the number of saves in Gregory Soto's career, well, he has a career total, let me just go ahead and get to this, of 50 saves at the major league level, 30 of them coming last year. It's darn good. That's darn good. And that's why, to me, he slots in absolutely perfectly into that role for the Philadelphia Phillies, which is the closer role, the one I talked about. So if I had the bullpen laid out, and we'll take a deeper dive into this in a later episode, maybe later this week, we can get into it a little bit further. But to me, here's how your bullpen slots out. Jose Alvarado is your lefty specialist. Whenever you have a big spot where you need to get a lefty out, now you can throw him in other big spots. He could be your 7th or 8th inning guy on choice nights. But to me, he's a guy that you look and you say, Juan Soto's coming up. Jose Alvarado's got him. When you say like another strong lefty, pick whoever you want. The left-handed hitters coming up that can try and win this ball game. Well, you're going ahead and you're putting Jose Alvarado out there to get them out. So that's what Jose Alvarado's main role is. Seranthony Dominguez is now your setup guy. He's your 8th inning. Get it to Seranthony. He'll shut it down in the 8th. You'll get it to Gregory Soto with an easy chance to close the door. So Alvarado, lefty specialist. Seranthony Dominguez, your setup man. Gregory Soto is your closer. Craig Kimbrell is your best opportunity guy, is what I'll call it. So basically, your best spot in the bullpen where you feel that you need a guy who can do whatever. It's not a lefty-lefty specialist situation. It's not a setup situation where you're just clean through to the 8th inning. No, this is 6th inning, big spot. 7th inning, big spot. Starter just got out and we got the bases loaded. That's Craig Kimbrell. He's your next best guy after the 3 already named. He's getting the biggest opportunities that don't fit typecast into those guys' roles. Outside of that, I'm trying to think of what you'd use other guys for, and they're more lighter stress situations. So, like, let's say you got a 4-1 game, and Aaron Nola just got bounced in the 6th inning, and you don't want to go to Kimbrell because it's not really a big stressor spot. Well, that could be Brogdon. That could be Bilotti. That could be Strom. Strom, another lefty spot in that instance. So those other guys are not mop-up guys. Nick Nelson's probably going to be your mop-up guy again. But those are guys, Brogdon, Bilotti, Strom, maybe Falter if he ends up in the bullpen, that take those 4th, 5th, 6th inning opportunities if starters have a rough day. If you get into a spot that's not all that tight, maybe they'll get the 7th or the 8th if it's like a 6 or 7 run ball game. But yeah, your big 4 guys are going to be Kimbrell, Alvarado, Dominguez, and now Gregory Soto. And that feels great because before I was saying, well, you got Kimbrell, you got Soto, you got Alvarado, rotate those 3 guys through. And then the rest of those guys, Brogdon will have to see a big spot here or there. Bilotti will have to see a big spot here or there. Those guys don't have big spots they have to see anymore. They're going to run into them eventually because Kimbrell can't throw every day. Dominguez can't throw every day. Alvarado can't throw every day. Someone's bound to spend some time on the injured list. Stuff like that's going to happen, but this bullpen just becomes more complete. And while I felt okay with where the bullpen was before, actually I felt great about where the bullpen was before with the acquisition of Craig Kimbrell. It's even better. The way I liken it, because a lot of people got on me. Actually, you know what? We're going to discuss this coming up as we wrap up because there's a bit of a conversation where I want to explain a little bit more of my thought process about I was fine with the bullpen and I can still be happy with this move. It's a perfectly okay thing to do. You can sit on the fence with this one. You can play both sides. And I plan to. as we wrap up coming up this episode of Locked On Phillies. Let me tell you about my friends over at Built Bar first, though. You know Built Bar, the great protein bar, collagen protein. It's good for you. It tastes great. I mean, everything's awesome. And listen, it's New Year's, okay? You don't want all of the fat and calories when you're trying to keep your New Year's resolutions. We just got through the holidays. I know one of my goals, eat a little healthier. It always is. It's all of our goals, right? No one comes into the New Year saying, I'm going to eat worse. Well, you got to try Built, because with Built, healthy is actually tasty. They're so delicious, you won't even think they're good for you. And, well, 100% real chocolate. They come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. Man, they taste like that, and they're good for you. It's almost impossible to find. Only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with 17 grams of protein in each bar. It's perfect. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built bars at Built.com. Well, now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. You can get them in person. Just walk on in there. That's right. It's nice and easy. Head to your nearest Walmart today. Walk to the pharmacy section. Grab yourself a box of Built bars. You can pick up a 4-box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, coconut puffs, all the good stuff. Built bars in your Walmart, there's no excuse not to get after them now. So if you're close to a Sam's Club or a Walmart, go ahead and in there. Everyone's close to a Walmart. Maybe you have a Sam's Club that's even closer. Grab a 13-bar box with hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. And hey, try them, and you can thank me later. All right. Here's my explanation about the bullpen, because I had this argument not last week, because last week I was sick 2 weeks ago. Kind of like a dead zone now. My dates are all off, and that happens around the new year anyway. But I had this argument. I feel great about the Phillies bullpen. I think Craig Kimbrell's a great addition. I think this bullpen's going to be really good with him. I still think that's true. If the Phillies had not made this move for Gregory Soto, I'd feel really good about the bullpen. Here's the explanation. I'm wearing my Eagles jersey today, right? I'm repping the Birds because the Eagles just locked down the 1 seed in the NFC, just won the NFC East. Shout out to the guys over at Locked On Eagles. Congratulations to the Birds. Love them. Playoffs run through Philadelphia in the NFC, so that's great. But my example, and I tweeted this as somebody who I was going back and forth with a couple weeks ago on this. The Eagles have 2 great wide receivers in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Unbelievable. Their wide receivers are great. I'm very happy with their wide receivers. They just put together the best seasons of any wide receivers in Eagles history. Statistically, hands down. Awesome. If the Philadelphia Phillies, yes, it is Locked On Phillies, but if the Philadelphia Eagles, went out and they added another all-pro wide receiver, I wouldn't say, oh, well, yeah, now they're good. I'd say, well, they're great now. They're even better. They're over the top good. It doesn't mean that they didn't have enough already. You can go above and beyond. And baseball, the gap in competitiveness is so big because of different markets, because of owners being unwilling to spend money whatsoever. Teams like the Oakland Athletics, teams like the Pittsburgh Pirates, teams like the Cincinnati Reds. They're not competitive right now. And for some of them, they may never be because their owners refuse to spend. So the gap in competitiveness is wider in baseball because of no salary cap, and the bigger market teams can just outspend. So you see a lot of places where teams go overboard. I know a lot's murky with the New York Mets and Carlos Correa, and that whole situation is still up in the air. But they've already got an all-star caliber shortstop in Francisco Lindor. Why do they need another one in Carlos Correa? Because go above and beyond and play him somewhere else in the infield and make your team better, because the top-level teams are top-level competitive. So was the Phillies bullpen good enough before they got Gregory Soto? Yes. The addition of Craig Kimbrell made me feel great about him. I think they would have been a great bullpen even without Soto. But that doesn't mean I'm not excited about Soto, and it doesn't mean they can't go above and beyond to be even better. So, yes, I believed in the bullpen before. No, I wasn't sitting here saying this move is necessary. And while I told you, and I promised you, they're done spending big money on a bullpen piece, and yes, I was still right about that because they didn't spend any money to do this. They went out and they made an acquisition of a player that was already under contract through 2025, a young player. You won the trade as far as value given up, and you gave up pieces that weren't going to start for you. That's a win. Were they still thinking about the bullpen? I never said they weren't. I said they weren't going to address with another big-name free agent that cost them more money because they've already committed so much money to the pen. They didn't do that. They still improved it in a way that I think a lot of people did not believe was possible because Gregory Soto is so talented, and Dave Dombrowski made another great move. So, yes, bullpen is now above and beyond good for the Philadelphia Phillies. I was happy with it as it was. So now I'm even happier with the additional move they made. That's all for today's Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. Now make your next listen Locked On MLB Prospects. Oh, man, you got to go check out what Lindsey Crosby is doing over there on Locked On MLB Prospects. A lot of interesting stuff. Who are teams calling up? It doesn't really fit in with the Phillies, but it fits in with a lot of their competitors, the Nationals, the Marlins, a lot of teams in the National League, those non-compete teams that I was talking about, the Pirates, Reds, the Athletics. They're going to be calling up some really interesting prospects in the coming months as you get ready for spring training. I know you can't call up before that, but invites will go out. And they'll set the ground for those guys to make debuts or get called up at some point through the season. So go ahead and check out what Lindsey Crosby's doing over there on Locked On MLB Prospects to figure out who your team or who the Philadelphia Phillies have that you can keep an eye on. And there's one guy the Philadelphia Phillies do have that may get the call up in Andrew Painter at some point this year. Worth listening to Lindsey Crosby's thoughts on that. So check out Locked On MLB Prospects, available wherever you get your podcasts, the Odyssey app, YouTube, same places you can watch Locked On Phillies. Thank you for everyone who's already subscribed, rated, reviewed, checked us out. Hit the subscribe button, the little bell on YouTube. If you haven't done that, do that. A lot of great offseason content still to come, and a lot of interesting theoretical stuff now that the Phillies have made their big moves, it would seem. But I've said that before for the 2022-23 offseason. That a lot of more fun stuff to come. So make sure you're locked in to Locked On Phillies. Man, see, I'm rusty. I haven't done this in a week. But we will continue to get the great content out for you. And even more episodes than I would normally have because, well, I got to make up for some lost time for y'all out there. I owe you some extra episodes. So I will talk to you again tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.